Malignant. Let's talk about it. So, Malignant is the story of Madison Mitchell, who is a pregnant woman and a really mysterious past. Madison hears some noises in the middle of the night, goes down to investigate, finds her husband dead with an entity-like thing kind of hanging over him. From then on, she keeps having visions of different grisly murders that are happening around town, and she tries to uncover why. And we have our movie. So what are my overall thoughts on this movie? I have to say that this is probably my least favorite James Wan film. The movie has a lot of trouble sticking to one thing, and that lack of focus can get kind of distracting at times. This movie felt like more of an experiment. The acting and the dialogue doesn't help because that can be really choppy and inconsistent. Having said that, there's some really great design choices made in terms of cinematography, lighting, and sound that really help draw you in and make you feel the perilous scares that it's designed to help you feel. And the horror concept in this movie is really quite novel for this sort of genre. And in my opinion, the horror genre is in need of some fresh ideas, so I don't fault the movie for that. What did I like about this movie? Like I touched upon earlier, the cinematography, lighting, and sound design used in this movie made for some really great scares. James Wan a lot of times has been credited with being a master of horror, building tension really subtly, and he uses nothing but sounds, different colored lighting. We see a lot of red lighting in this movie. We also see a lot of lighting where maybe only one side of the character's face can be seen, and a lot of that is very excellent for horror because it adds a lot of mystique, it adds a lot of intrigue, and when you're trying to scare people, having less information revealed is much more powerful than showing us everything. Also, the novel horror concept that I touched upon, James Wan introduces a new concept in this movie. I can't go too much into detail because that's spoiler territory, but he introduces something different in the horror genre, and I appreciate it for what it was, although it might not have perfectly landed with me. One other thing I want to touch upon, I enjoyed McKenna Grace in this movie. She plays the younger version of Madison Mitchell. She was also in The Handmaid's Tale, and I really enjoyed her performance. I am excited to see what other work she will do in the future. And one thing I also really appreciated the runtime for what it was in this movie. It felt like it was perfectly paced for its 2-hour runtime. I thought 2 hours would be a little long for a horror movie, but the fact of the matter is, this landed perfectly. There's nothing in there that I thought they should cut this out, they should cut that out. I was never really bored for the 2 hours. Now let's get into what I didn't enjoy so much about this movie. The movie is really inconsistent in its DNA and ideas, and the acting and the dialogue being choppy doesn't really help in that regard. Meaning this movie really didn't know what it wanted to be. It didn't know if it wanted to be a horror movie, buddy cop movie, a murder mystery, whodunit. It felt like a mixture of all of those things, and to me, without committing to just one, I think the movie faltered and just was worse off for it. And the thing that didn't help was the music choices. There was a lot of music choices made throughout this movie where right after a very scary scene and then they start playing pump up music, I'm kind of like, I'm getting a juxtaposed message here that I'm just not, it just didn't really click with me, and for me it was just distracting. And I have to say, touching upon the dialogue piece, the dialogue really killed the movie for me at some times, especially really early on. The movie in terms of its story takes a little while to get going, and when you have poor dialogue to build up to it, it can be very uninteresting for the first half hour. So the fact of the matter is the dialogue at points for really dramatic moments also really killed the drama, it killed the scares, and also at a few points throughout the movie, the acting can be kind of meh sometimes. Like I said, especially going along at the beginning, but even a little bit towards the end. But I gotta say, like in the center cut of this movie, the acting is actually quite good, especially for the scary scenes. The acting landed where it needed to, but it faltered in some other areas that would have been elevated in the movie, but it just didn't. And that's not just from one actor, it's from several across the board. And another thing I didn't like is it kind of felt like this movie was living in two different lanes. One, the scares part of the lane, and two, the story part of the lane. The scares part of the lane actually picked up really quickly, which was quite nice, but it was really odd because the story part of it kind of dragged and took forever to get going, and it made for a really awkward pace. It's kind of like when you're driving on the highway and you've got the one car that wants to go 90 and the other who's only going 10 under, and that was the same case for this movie, and that's the best analogy I could come up with. So overall, my friends, at the end of the day, I'm gonna have to give this movie a 6 out of 10. It was just okay. I didn't hate this movie. I don't regret watching it, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. Between the really inconsistent themes and awkward pace and also the choppy dialogue and acting, it just really brought down the movie for me. Having said that, there were some great things like the new concept in the horror genre, the cinematography, lighting, and sound that made for great scares at times. So my friends, what did you think of Malignant? You know where the comment section is. Let me know. Thanks so much for watching another movie review. Like, comment, subscribe, or check out any of these other great playlists beyond the fun. This has been the Bankrupt Hippo YouTube channel. I've been Bryson. Until next time, have a great day.